You're excited to win some bags or win some stuff or win that somewhere between $100 worth of Litecoin and a Lamborghini's worth of Litecoin. That will happen right after this is over. And if you are excited about the cake party, make some noise. It's very exciting, very exciting. All right, so Kyle Eber is going to host this fireside chat, group chat with all the big dogs here of the foundation, and he's at 84million.com. Kyle published 84million.co, okay, .com, this is a space in here, .com, in the fall of 2021 as an education and advocacy program promoting Litecoin as the best digital money and blockchain payment network. After his standalone interview with developer David Burkett in spring 2023, Kyle launched the 84 Million podcast, which now has listeners in more than 90 countries. Kyle is also responsible for the Litecoin Coffee Club, a small batch specialty coffee project for the Litecoin community. Learn more at 84million.com. Please welcome all of the cool people. These are my favorite people here because they chose to pick me and pay me to be here, so. Their mics are in the seats. There should be, they are. All the mics are in the seats for you already. Thank you. You look really good based on how I left you last night.
Thank you.
That's good, Alan.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, Robbie, you're looking fresh and good. David, looking fit as always. Charlie, I love the shirt. Jay, my guy. Go get him, 84million.com.
Thank you very much. So this is the last hurrah of the summit. We're already winding down. So I think it's kind of like a family reunion, so I think it's amazing everybody's here. How many Bitcoiners are over here? Anybody come from Bitcoin? We got a few people. So I think there's kind of a cool analogy, at least I can speak personally. You know, you come for Bitcoin and you go through all things, and then you come back to Litecoin. So you guys came to, you folks for the Bitcoin team, came to this city to enjoy your great orange coin, but you stay for the blue coin, you stay for Litecoin. So we're glad to have everybody here. I'm honored to be a part of this panel. Marty, thank you for the introductions. I'm not the one you want to listen to, and I've got a timer in front of me, so I'm going to do my best to honor it. But I'm a podcaster, we're long-winded. But anyway, I would like each of you to just give a brief introduction, and then we'll go with questions from there. Maybe start with Alan.
Oh, hey everyone, thanks for being here at our event, really appreciate it. I'm Alan Austin, the Managing Director at Litecoin Foundation.
Hey, I'm Robbie Coleman, and I'm the Creative Director of the Litecoin Foundation.
David Schwartz, Strategic Partnerships Director and Board Member.
I'm Charlie Lee, Creator of Litecoin.
And Jay Mila, I am the Director of Marketing.
Amazing. Thank you for the introductions. We'll dive right in. So I want to look at a little bit with history, then we'll go into kind of, the relationship of Bitcoin and Litecoin over the years, and then how basically Litecoin is knocking it out of the park with metrics. And these guys are going to tell us all about it. So this is the 5th summit. Litecoin's already been running for almost 14 years. Okay, so I think a lot of things have changed in the space over that time. You guys have witnessed this probably more than I have, although I've been around a few days now. How do you kind of keep the soul of the Litecoin Foundation and the iterations of the summits over all the phasing or phases of crypto and the wind changes that seem to be constant, or at least every cycle? Anybody up?
This is going to be a really tough panel because, like, Charlie doesn't want to take the spotlight because everyone wants to hear about Charlie. I agree. So I'll take this one. I think it's really important if you look at the early days of Bitcoin conferences, which, if you spot in a really pixelated picture, you might see a young Charlie Lee. But you think about those, and they were small, and they were, I don't want to say some of the conferences turning into gigantic ads, but this is really a great space. We've got great people coming, talking about the fundamentals of not just Litecoin, but also the ecosystem that backs it, and the fundamentals. So I think in terms of the values, like, not to blow smoke towards Charlie, I don't know that expression and how it translates into American. That's a joke. Sorry, you're all used to Marty. But I think what Charlie did from the outset was really establish that Litecoin has a great integrity and a set of values, and I think that transfers through to the way we present the summits and try and maintain that over the years.
I just quickly got, in terms of the foundation, you know, our focus isn't the price. I mean, our focus is on doing whatever the best we could do. And one of the things we've been committed to is putting on an annual Litecoin Summit because it's really important. You know, it's a really great opportunity to bring together the great minds and have thought-provoking conversations. And price really has nothing to do with that. We ultimately can't control the price, so we focus on the things that we could do, and we do the best we can.
Very good. David, earlier this year, we were having a conversation. You may have posted this on X, but basically, you were referring to us gathering here at the summit, all y'all. It was suggestive to me because you said it was kind of like a simple statement. We're here for Litecoin. We're not here for something else. And I think that's a maturation. Tell us more about what you mean by we're here for Litecoin.
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's something that's sort of derives from the selflessness value, right? You're doing something that's for the greater good. It's something beyond yourself. You can identify with it, and you can also identify with people that identify with it. It creates a community, but ultimately, what we're doing is for Litecoin for generations. It's not something that's for today necessarily. It's not even for tomorrow. It's for well beyond that. And so, to me, when I say we're here for Litecoin, that's basically what I'm saying. Is it's a large effort that takes more than 5 or 6 guys sitting on a stage. It takes everybody, people that aren't even here, people that'll come after us. Cultivating that kind of culture is not easy, and so you have to make it very simple and say you're here for Litecoin. So that's pretty much what I was trying to say at that point.
Do we agree? Are we here for Litecoin? I'm here for Litecoin. Very, very good. I want to kind of go back into the ancient history of the chain and direct this one to Charlie. You know, in your BitcoinTalk.org forum post, Litecoin, a light version of Bitcoin launched. That was, I believe, on October 9th, 2011. You wrote, we wanted to make a coin that is the silver to Bitcoin's gold. This analogy, of course, is foundational. Media outlets have picked it up. You were calling Bitcoin gold and Litecoin silver before probably anybody else, as far as I know. And it was kind of in your foundational forum post. So do you still stand by this original vision as Litecoin being the silver to Bitcoin's gold?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, that was one of the best tagline that I could ever come up with for Litecoin. It kind of became a self-fulfilling prophecy. When people hear Litecoin is silver to Bitcoin's gold, it kind of they can resonate with that. It sticks in their mind, and they think about they'll think about Litecoin being the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and it actually became a reality. I still think it's true. I mean, Litecoin is, like I said in my opening speech, it's people's currency, right? It's how silver is being used as a currency. So yeah, Litecoin is fast, cheap, and it just works. I think the new tagline should be, it just works.
It just works. Very good. I'm going to go a little bit further with that one. So the analogy is interesting because it posits 2 independents but 2 dependents at the same time. It's not just silver. It's silver to Bitcoin's gold. We've got gold.
It's like an SAT problem, huh?
I'm sorry?
It's like an SAT problem.
Perhaps. I don't want to retake that exam. But I'm curious what it suggests. Does it suggest a permanent interconnection between Bitcoin and Litecoin, or does it also confirm they're both independent entities in and of themselves?
I think it does both, right? It connects us to Bitcoin, but also differentiates us from Bitcoin. So I think that's very important.
So we still want to cooperate with Bitcoin?
Oh, for sure. I think Bitcoin, I mean, everybody knows that Bitcoin is the king of cryptocurrency, right? Just like the phrase I like to use is, if Bitcoin sneezes, everyone catches a cold, right? Which is, people use that for USA. But it's similar for this case, right? Everything follows Bitcoin. So, and Litecoin works very closely with Bitcoin. I think these 2 coins work well together to address the payment needs of the world.
Very good, very good. Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin and maybe maximalism. I think they're 2 different things, Bitcoiners versus maximalists. I don't want to get too controversial, but everybody's aware of it. The Bitcoin maximalist might suggest that Bitcoin is the hardest money in the world and champion these slogans such as there's no second best. So why are the maximalists wrong about Litecoin?
I think there's something to be said for being first to market, but I will tell you why Litecoin is different than Bitcoin as a community. I don't know any Litecoin maximalists. In fact, especially kudos to a lot of the guys on this stage. We've opened this up to all kinds of different crypto communities. Whether you're merge mining or have some new coin or new crossover thing that's being merge mined now with Litecoin, everybody's welcome. And I think that's has to be something that's more heartfelt for our industry than trying to close it all down to just, we were first to market. This is the only path forward, and we can't accept anything else but.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Jay. I think there's kind of no merit in maximalism if you think about it. So I agree, Bitcoin is king, and I think that's great because, it works. I don't want to steal the current tagline we've got working for Litecoin, apparently. Can we discuss that after this, Charlie? I'm not sure it's right. But anyway, but I think that the idea is that having a symbiotic relationship with Bitcoin is a good one for Litecoin. It's a healthy one for Litecoin. And what it allows Litecoin to do is to, I guess, operate in a different space. It also allows it to serve a different function, like Charlie was mentioning, as a currency. And I think the reality is that, if we were to ever see a truly decentralized world, which who knows, you'd think about Bitcoin as your bank, and I hate that cliche, but cliches have truth to them. And I'd like to think that Litecoin would be the payments option because it is light, fast, and for all those other reasons. And I guess the other thing is there's no reason why we would freeze anyone out if they added an attribute. We're building bridges with a lot of things, which I'll let other people talk about. But the idea is that Litecoin doesn't have to be everything to everyone, and so maximalism sort of doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I just had, your question was why is our Bitcoin maxis wrong about Litecoin, I believe, right?
Yes, and
I think to some extent, so I think you have to, first of all, you have to kind of define what a Bitcoin maxi is. I mean, it's a lot of different things to a lot of people, but I think a lot of, at least today's Bitcoin maxis are wrong about Litecoin because a lot of today's Bitcoin maxis are actually wrong about Bitcoin. And I say that, thank you, and what I mean by that is I don't think, maxis have kind of increasingly shifted their focus from traditional values, decentralization, sound money principles, over to more centralized ideas, custodial solutions, leveraged plays, highly leveraged plays, not considering risks and things like that, to a point where it's almost not even about Bitcoin anymore. It's almost like it's just about an idea, like my idea is better than yours, even though they're very similar. Like my religion's better than yours, even though it may be the exact same, but we're just using different names. I don't think you could really argue with anybody that's that kind of person because you're not really even talking about fundamentals anyway. There is the argument, some would say, well, there is no second best. We don't need anything more. Bitcoin does everything. But with that argument, number one is I think people, first of all, people always want choice in this world because the moment you don't have choice is the moment you're living in a controlled situation which goes against the very idea of what Bitcoin stands for to begin with. So I think it's that, and also there are some things on top of what that Litecoin offers that Bitcoin doesn't have in terms of better money. And right now we're not seeing a lot of, the whole idea of using money as a medium of exchange is still so new, but as that starts changing, I think Litecoin is in a really unique position, and privacy and other things like speed and cost and everything become more and more important.
Alan, you almost made me want to buy some Litecoin.
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah, honestly, I think just the mantra of where they say hold, right? Just hodl. And we're like, spend it, right? That literally is sort of like a microcosm of a much larger, I don't want to say it's a problem, it's just different mentalities on how to approach cryptocurrency. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
So I'm going to introduce another question. It's in reference to last year's summit. And I think it was a challenge to hear as Litecoiners, we like to hear only good news and everything like that. And I'm fully on board with everything the foundation is doing. I'm very much a Litecoiner personally and being more convicted of that all the time. But to consider the other side, to be maybe the devil's advocate for this one, Litecoin has faced criticism, let's say over the last year, about branding novelty. We had someone share actually last year at the summit, that they see it as Litecoin had a narrative problem. Alan, maybe you, and maybe you disagree with that or agree with this, but I guess what has been done to shift the narrative of Litecoin? Did you think that was necessary? What's your take on the narrative of Litecoin?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the word narrative again is I mean, everything I guess has some kind of narrative. I think one question is maybe it just, it's funny though, over the last year, and kind of going back to my last comment, this focus, this increasingly shifting focus of at least newer people in the Bitcoin space and what we're seeing in terms of moving away from those sound money principles, I think really misses the mark on what Bitcoin was about. And in that respect, Litecoin's continuing to embrace what's important for sound money, and I think that narrative is just missed still for everything to pump my bags. But at the end of the day, sound money is really important in this world, and I think it's almost like the other narratives have sort of changed. So Litecoin's narrative is actually maybe doesn't need to do anything at all, and more importantly, we just need to get more education, more people in the world to understand and be aware of Litecoin and know about Litecoin and why it's so important. I think we could continue to do that. We can always do a better job at doing that. As a foundation, we have to stay lean because we have a finite amount of resources, but we can do everything we can, and we always support other people in getting the word out.
Yeah, I remember last year as well. There was a lot of feedback that came back, and I encourage everybody to give us more feedback for this year as well. One of the big hurdles I think we came back with, especially David, was like, we need to kind of engage with institutions. We're on this cusp of where institutions are really looking at us, and how do we explain Litecoin to them so they really understand it. And now look at what has happened in the last year with numerous ETFs, and not just in the United States, but ETFs in Australia and ETPs in Scandinavia. So that kind of institutional question that was asked last year, I think we answered that pretty well.
Can I say something? I think the narrative is important. Getting people kind of to resonate with it. But in the end, for me, I think the best thing to do is build the best money it can be, and once people use it, they will continue to use it, and people will come and adopt it. Right? It's not something that we need to tell everyone. And just today, when Alan and I went to lunch, he ran into someone who invested in Litecoin and uses it, but actually didn't even know that there was a Litecoin summit just upstairs, and he probably doesn't even know who I am, which is the best thing, right? That he just uses Litecoin without needing to know too much about it because it's the best form of money.
I think yes. Sorry. Clap, Charlie. That's it.
I mean, he should have known about the summit, though.
Yeah.
He could have known about the summit, though.
Yeah, he should have known about the summit. But it's actually really funny that he has Litecoin and he doesn't even know the Litecoin summit is right above.
Well, I think that's the thing about branding, right? People throw this word around about branding, and they forget that this is a 16-year-old space, and Litecoin's 14 years old, and things take time. The reality is that branding is not the issue. I think the issue is that a lot of people have entered the space in the last 10 years and seen it for, as an alternative investment, and that's great. And I think what Litecoin's done is shown a different purpose and a different function as money, and a different, dual purpose, which it can be an investment and it can be a money. And I think the reality is I don't believe there is a branding problem. I believe that it's a nascent space, and that things that are, that are flash in a pan, they burn bright, and Litecoin is the second oldest cryptocurrency and never been down. So I think that that's testament to the fact that don't broke what's not fixed, or whatever that phrase is. Yeah.
Yeah, Litecoin is...
That's the new one.
Don't broke what's fixed?
I've had 6 hours sleep over 4 days, so you guys all came up to me beforehand and went, "Hey, Robbie."
Just works with that, or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think we might. Anyway, branding. I don't know. What do I know about it? We'll ask people who are random on the internet. But yeah, honestly, like Jay said, we're really open to everything. The foundation is not, well, I don't know if someone else wants to jump in here, but the foundation is not the decision maker and the almighty behind Litecoin. You know, Litecoin exists well beyond the foundation. And I think the reality is that if we all want Litecoin to succeed, then please provide feedback on any aspect, provide ideas on any aspect, provide critique. But I think that critique is always best followed by a suggestion or an opportunity or something, because it's easy to critique something but not have an answer.
All great responses. I agree that there are multiple narratives that are long and established for Litecoin, cryptocurrency of payments, silver to Bitcoin's gold. And then, you know, I've noticed this panel, we've had all these chairs up here, this entire summit, and it's never been completely filled. I think we're the first one to fill the panel. But there's one person glaringly missing from this panel. Where's intern?
I think we're all intern. That's my answer.
We're all intern, okay.
We're all the intern.
We can't get another chair and get the intern up here, no?
No, I can tell you just from experience, though, that entire thing it's a collaborative effort. So you couldn't really even pin it down on one person. I think there's been a lot of people over the last, whatever it is now, 6 or 7 months or something, that have contributed to that. So it would be a lie to say that there's a specific person or anything else that's the intern. It's been a collective of a lot of people.
I think the Litecoin intern is the best thing to happen in Litecoin this year. What do you guys say?
Here, here. And it all came out with, I think the first statement was, due to market conditions, I now identify as a meme coin. And that blew the internet up, and the Litecoin handles, so we talk about maybe the new narrative is intern. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So again, there's a lot of ways to look at Litecoin and see what you guys have done and established over the years. And some of us that have been around a long time know these narratives, but I guess the challenge is to share it with them. And institutions are next. And a lot of them are here. You know, we're kind of closing out here. We've heard a lot of funds and different folks in different communities and different spaces in the world, and it's pretty exciting. So I'm convinced that the future for Litecoin is extremely bright. Let's move on to maybe some metrics, and maybe, again, anybody can comment on these. We've got Litecoin, you know, they're fast, low-fee payments. They're the #1 on Bitcoin for nearly 2 years now, if I'm not mistaken.
BitPay.
What did I say?
You said Bitcoin.
BitPay. I still like LitePay. But
With the
anyway,
Visa to their
I didn't have
MasterCard.
it. Fair enough, but they're killing it on BitPay. They're leading the pack. Litecoin's doing extremely well. CoinGate's doing well. Seems like anywhere it's added, it's doing well. So what do you think the attraction is, or what's causing this, and how do we sustain it? What's the plan? Is there anything the foundation's doing about adoption in these kind of payments?
I think it's part of what someone said earlier was the idea that Litecoin is here to spend. You know, price goes up narrative, hold. Cryptocurrency is there to be spent. It's there to be, a form of money, and people feel comfortable holding it, and they feel comfortable spending it. And it also translates well to the way it was built. It's fast, it's quick, and it's really cheap to make that transaction. So I think, you know, part of it is the idea of, you know, using it as a form of money, and part of it is that it actually works in the way that you would want your money to work.
Yeah. You know, honestly, when I started actually using it to pay for things, that was the first time I had control over it, other than when I was holding it. The price, I can't control the price, right? I'm at the mercy of whatever's happening in the market. But when I literally used it to pay for something, that was all me, right? And that felt really good the first time I did that. And that actually was a bit intoxicating, to be honest with you, to be able to say, I actually used this to pay for some sneakers. I used it for a flight. I've used it for hotels. I've used it for all kinds of stuff. And once you start actually doing that, you literally start to understand why it's important to have some money and the independence that comes with that. And to me, that resonates a lot more with people once you get past number goes up. And I think that's the reason why, I don't want to call it a narrative, but the point behind Litecoin works so well, and that the payments part excels, right? and I don't think that's going to end. I think that's only going to continue to grow. So number goes up is only good as long as number goes up. But paying for something and being in control of your money is something that doesn't stop.
Very good. Oh, go ahead.
I think the best part about like BitPay's stats showing that Litecoin is number one for the past like whatever 18 months or something like that is that I know for a fact that we as Litecoin Foundation, we don't fake any numbers, right? We're not out there like just buying random things just to pump the numbers, so that it's real world usage, right? It's actually real people using Litecoin because it's cheap and fast and it just works. So I love that fact about it.
The just works bit, yeah, it keeps coming up. That's going to stick now. Uh-oh. I agree with everyone. I think there was someone asked me on Twitter about, can you remind me, I told you about this. It was a good story. Thanks very much for leaving me hanging here, Kyle. I'm looking at you. Can you see me?
Yeah.
So I think the idea was that...
You're welcome.
Thanks. Just his stare can... But someone asked me about this idea of why Litecoin's price hasn't gone up, and I think there's two different ways of looking at adoption. And you look at adoption in terms of new addresses, and you look at adoption in terms of utility in the real world. Like David saying, you can actually see it being used. Like, I pay for my psychiatrist surprise in Litecoin. That's cool. That's an interesting, example, and it's a really simple explanation when you can actually tangibly show what this thing does. Bitcoin's harder to explain, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, because it's also got a number of narratives, which is like freedom, blah, blah. But I say it depends on your version of freedom and financial freedom. So if your idea of financial freedom is a Lamborghini, then probably like Bitcoin is the thing that you're going financial freedom. The reality is there aren't too many Lamborghinis in the world for a reason. But for, I don't know, more than 4 billion people in the world, they don't have access to, censorship-resistant money. They don't have access to, stable money or, economies and various other things, which Litecoin is a real opportunity to solve those problems. And so if you think about financial freedom for those 4 billion plus, I think that's a lot more exciting a proposition.
The price sucks. Okay, let's just be real.
Great. So
it's stupid.
I like how none of my answers are popular.
No. I'm saying, I think we can all agree it's just stupidly low. I mean, but everything else is great, and it's just
I kind of disagree a little bit. Yes, definitely undervalued. The price is the price, but you have to remember that if you look at a lot of tokens and ICOs that were created, especially in 2017, those have left the top 50 in market cap. Some of them have left the top 100. And these are ones that raised billions. I think Litecoin is the only coin to be a top 10 market cap coin to have left the top 20 or 25 and re-enter the top 10 at a later date. I'm not looking at coin market cap every single day for the last 10 years, but I have not found anything else or any other coin that has exited and re-entered the top 10. So being in the top 20, I think price-wise and market cap-wise is excellent.
I mean, that's consistency, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think the idea of currency and sound money is that you don't, cost of living, right? That's an easy thing to talk about over dinner. I mean, maybe not dinner, trying to get dinner, or whatever it may be. I'm rambling a little bit. Remember the sleep thing? But I guess the thing is, traditional money and traditional systems, everyone has a conversation and narrative, and they're comfortable talking about, the government's printing more money and, the cost of living's going up and all these sorts of things. But then when you bring up things like what Jay was saying, that demonstrates consistency of a currency and a money. And I think that's the fact that the price hasn't been, pumping up and down and up and down and up and down. There's some real benefit to that for a huge number of people. Anyway, I think that's directly correlated to the market cap.
I also think the coin market cap ranking isn't that important because there's a lot of stable coins on there that the market cap for a stablecoin has no effect on. You can't compare it with like a coin like Litecoin, right? And there's a lot of VC coins on there where the VCs own 90%. So like the market cap is just much bigger because the float is really small. So I mainly just focus on POW coins, right? Proof of work coins. So it's like Bitcoin, Ethereum. Actually, it's not even proof of work anymore. Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, maybe Bitcoin Cash, and like basically Litecoin is top 5 the whole time.
Those are good words. Without continuing to go down the path of NGO and all of this, maybe we could shift our outlook a little bit. Where do you see Litecoin in 5 or 10 years? Any estimations for the folks that want to know?
One Litecoin will be worth about 1 Litecoin.
There you have it. So let's move on to look at maybe MWEB. I think most of us are aware of that in this room. But MWEB, or the Mimblewimble extension block, it's optional confidential transactions on Litecoin. Of course, David Burkert was here earlier. He was a big part of getting that done on Litecoin. You know, we have it in Core. We have it now on Cake. I think we're getting Nexus very soon. Actually, it was launched yesterday with Loshan in the morning. So we're growing. I think we have about 13 million pegged in US dollar value at this time, which is pretty amazing. Litecoiners know about it, but I like to make the joke that Litecoin is the largest cap privacy crypto that nobody knows about. It doesn't mean the pegged in value, but meaning per market cap, you know, Litecoin is the head of the game with on-chain privacy, and like nobody even seems to think about it. So what strategies are being pursued to maybe expand awareness of Mimblewimble confidential transactions and things like that?
Well, talking to wallets would be number one, right? And I think that takes more than an individual or a foundation. That's something where, at least in my experience talking to some of the wallets or people that could facilitate it, it's all about demand. So a lot of them come back and say, well, once we have more demand for it, then we'll consider it. So me reaching out to them and saying, hey, we'd really like to see MWEB added to your wallet, they're like, okay, that's cool, but like we have a list of other things that take priority, and we don't have anybody asking about it. So if we don't have anybody asking about it, that's not a priority for us, right? Which is common. I mean, that makes common sense. It's a business plan they're following, and if their customers aren't asking for it, then what's the point, right? So that's where the community comes in, and I think that's something where we've tried to push a little bit more on socials, is to have you guys be more active in pushing that towards the wallets. And they are responding, by the way, with that. In the conversations that I have with them, you have some that are now planning to put that into their roadmap over the next year. Of course, it's still always tied to whatever they have going on, but these aren't necessarily small wallets that are talking about doing it. And they're seeing others add it. And so, I mean, I have to say, Cake Wallet did a really, really good thing for MWEB by adding it, because it showed specifically that when one wallet adds it, the growth over the time frame from when they added it to now is like 4 times the amount of MWEB, MWEB address Litecoin that's out there. So now you're looking at about approximately 150,000 Litecoin that's in MWEB addresses, when if you look back to last May, I believe it was somewhere around 20 to 30,000. That's pretty significant from one wallet. So once you start adding those other wallets, you'd like to see more people, utilizing it, and those numbers should naturally go up over time.
Well, I mean, like, think about how many of you have been using Chrome browser or Safari for the last 10 years? I imagine everyone. How many of you have used private browsing? I imagine everyone. Maybe no one wants to put up their hand. I'll do it. I think the reality is that things start as they are, and the technology evolves when there's demand or need or desire for a function or feature or capability. And, Litecoin on its mission to create, a more, sound money or holistic modern currency, adding optional, confidential transactions, it's maybe not hitting critical mass now, but you look at the adoption of things like private browsing, then you look at people like my dad who have stickers over their camera on top of their laptops. And, you know, he's 75 years old. You wouldn't have seen that 5 years ago. So people are becoming more conscious of privacy. People are becoming more conscious of the need to protect, you know, their financial privacy. And I think that once we, you know, as David said, we've sown the seeds, and the more people that we partner with, the bigger it grows. And when that need arises, I think it'll be really big.
Yeah, I agree. There's still this big hodl mentality within the crypto space as a whole. So I think, you know, we don't still have a lot of people using it or spending crypto, whether it's for, you know, regular, you know, tax-related reasons or just, you know, because the value is going to be higher later, whatever it is. So the idea of privacy isn't as important, but as you start spending it, right, and as you start, you know, whether it's payroll or sending large amounts to certain people, you start thinking about those things more. And as you start, you know, as you continue to hear about data leaks, I mean, kidnappings, I mean, things like that. You know, at some point, you know, but these are things that it feels like we're hearing about these things as the crypto space grows a little bit more regularly. And, you know, you combine that with hopefully the usage, which I think will only ultimately happen in terms of spending crypto. It becomes there's a lot more demand all of a sudden. It becomes a lot more important. With that said, though, the privacy layer on Litecoin is growing. It's just growing. You know, it's growing at a slower pace, but it's still growing, and that's the most important thing.
Use MWEB. It is trending up. You can check up the MWEB Explorer, and you can see there's some spike anomalies, which are pretty massive, to be honest. So people are definitely using MWEB, but the general trend is up. So it's great. Institutional interest. We don't have a whole lot of time left. I don't think we've ever seen higher institutional interest in Litecoin. We've seen a lot of that represented here. With folks interested in ETFs and different products all over the world, as it was already mentioned. You know, how is the foundation positioning itself for increased institutional adoption, and how are we to assess it? You know, some are going to praise it, say it's the best thing that's ever happened. Others are going to be more skeptical. What do we do with maybe looking at that?
Well, from a foundation standpoint, I think what's most important is we'll always support the right for self-custody, right? And knowing that, you know, and I think it's also important to understand that there's different reasons for different things. And, you know, like an ETF, for example, you know, for a lot of people it makes sense, you know, whether it's money in retirement accounts or it's just easier to buy, or maybe some people just have more comfort in not worrying about holding their own keys. I think it's important for adoption as a whole. And I think it will, in my opinion, it's going to be once it goes, I think it's going to actually be a very popular thing, and it's going to help absorb some supply. You know, but that aside, I think it's okay that you know, I mean, we will support anything that's good for adoption, but always make sure that people can always self-custody.
Also about communication. So Fidelity, for instance, added Litecoin amongst BTC and ETH as availability to their customers, not only for their standard model, but also IRAs. But they didn't release any kind of announcement around that, or it was, I think one publication covered it and said, Fidelity just quietly added Litecoin to IRAs, which is pretty significant news. So just helping to communicate those kind of things to not only to our community, but to the larger crypto industry at large is important. Anybody else on that one? Okay.
Well, just one thing. So some of the institutions and banks that we've talked to, they take it seriously and they do their due diligence, and they do end up learning a lot more about Litecoin through that process. And I think that's important too, even if they don't add it immediately. The fact that they're asking questions and we're able to actually dispel some things, that's been a great opportunity too. So maybe you don't see the fruits of it immediately, but that's something that's evolving, and it's encouraging when you see that happen.
Very good. I've got one more question. I'm going to pause it for one moment and just say, first of all, thank you all for having me here, and thank you for everything that you do as a foundation. Let's give an applause for the foundation. These guys do a lot of work arranging these every single year, and I think a lot of it is thankless. I'm a spectator, but I think a lot of it is thankless work, and they're doing a lot. So thank you.
And we actually have a lot of people to thank. All the people that have helped us put on this summit, We should really call out all their names, all of our volunteers, all of the sponsors that have helped participate in this and been so actively involved in everything that we're trying to put together here. Thank you, and obviously everybody that came. If you're watching online as well, thank you. This really is, a really active community, but when we put it on in the physical space and everybody shows up, that's really what continues us to continue to do these kind of things. So thank you very much.
Another applause. So I want to go for the last question. We have like a minute and a half left. Going real back to basics. First principles sort of stuff. So how does Litecoin, a permissionless, decentralized, trustless cryptocurrency, increase human freedom? And what is the case for Litecoin as freedom money in 2025?
I want to hear from Charlie. I keep looking at him every question, and I'm like,
who wants to hear from Charlie?
I mean, this is a good question for Satoshi. He created Bitcoin, right? Cryptocurrency itself is the best form of money, and why it brings freedom money to people is that you can use your money without anyone telling you you can't, right? Before cryptocurrency, if you try to use your Visa card in another country, you get blocked, right? They don't accept it. If you try to send money, you can get reversed, or the government can say you can't send money to this person. One thing that kind of resonated with me, the reason why I really believed in Bitcoin is I was playing poker online, and then there was a poker Black Friday where they banned online poker, right? It was actually probably Vegas that pushed for this. And the way they banned online poker is they banned all the payment methods, like Visa, MasterCard. There was no way to get your money to an online poker site. And that's how they stopped online poker. And at the time, I was like, that's just wrong, right? This is your money. You're not doing anything bad, right? Nothing illegal. You're just playing poker. You can play poker in Vegas. Why can't you play it online? It's a game of skill. There's no gambling involved. And yet, the government is able to stop everyone from playing online poker just because they can stop the flow of money. So cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Litecoin changes that, and that's why it's the freedom of money.
Anybody else?
that's all I wanted to hear. That's
very good.
Yeah.
Well, let's thank these gentlemen. It's been a great panel. Anybody have any closing statements before we end?
I think Jay already said, really big thanks to everyone here. I mean, we can't do this without all of you. Let me throw a special thanks out to Rebecca, Jeremy, and Craig. I don't know if they're in the audience here, but these are volunteers that have been working the last 6 months, like literally putting in so much time. We couldn't do this without them. And of course, everybody. We have a great party later too, so it's not stopping here. But thanks again for coming.
I want to give big thanks to everyone on the stage, especially David and Alan, who did a lot of work for the summit, and Alan for taking over the managing director role because I was too lazy to continue with it.
Charlie's definitely not too lazy, that's for sure.
Yeah, we do have some drawings and some other things, auction and some other stuff to give out, so sit tight for a minute here. We'll have Marty entertain us while he does some auctioneering and some other stuff, so no reason to get up yet. But yeah, thank you again for everybody come out. And I think I'd like to think I speak for everybody here that this tends to grow and it gets better every year. And I think the thing that we're really trying to stick to regardless is that whole point about being Litecoin again. It's about the community and everything else. And I think you guys really show up every time, and it encourages us to continue doing what we're doing. So thank you.
Amazing.
Thank
I
you.
think that's it. Thank the team, and thanks for having us up here. Marty.